Predestination v. free will in Islam. The concept of predestination and free will is quite ambiguous. It is quite hard and requires lots of deep analysis to decide are our actions predestined or do we have free will, or do we have a mixture of both? In this video I'm going to find out which concept is suitable for me and my religion. You're probably wondering, what is predestination and free will? Predestination is the doctrine that God has ordained all that will happen on this earth. In other words, God has already decided everything that was going to happen on this earth before he even created the earth. Then there's free will. This is the belief that all of your actions are all done by yourself, and no higher power had decided the action or predetermined it. I'm a Muslim, and across the Islamic faith we have divided opinions. Some Islamic scholars believe in our actions being predestined, some say we have free will, and some say we have a mixture of both. At this moment in time, I am not too sure on what to believe in, predestination or free will. But if I had to choose, I'd probably say I believe in predestination, because I believe in a God who is all-knowing. If we had free will, then how is God all-knowing? Because with free will you decide what to do, and God doesn't. And if God doesn't know what you are going to do, then how is he all-knowing? But if you look at the other side of the argument, if all our actions are predetermined, then why did God create us? So is it a mixture of free will and predestination? It's just too confusing. My mind can't take it. So, to clear my confusion, I'm going to interview someone who's more knowledgeable about free will and predestination, and after the interview, I will decide where I stand: predestination, free will, or both.
Okay, so there are some views on predestination that everything is not in your control and is decreed by God. And therefore, everything that you do, every step you take, every action that you do was already decreed by God, and you don't have any control over that. So for example, if I were to take a pen and I were to throw it at you, I could turn around and say that God determined this to happen, and therefore I was not in control, it was meant to happen. Now you can see the troublesome view with regards to this particular view, and that is that people are going to do such actions and then not have judgment to that action. So they'll not be judged according to what actions they have done, because they can turn around and say that that action was predestined and pre-decreed. The other view is on the other side, which is total free will, and saying that actually there is no higher power that is in charge of anything that I'm doing or has planned or decreed anything that I'm doing in my life. And therefore everything that I have is of my own choice and of my own free will. So I'm making the journey of my life, and I'm creating the journey of my life, and there is no one who's higher who's decreeing something in front of me in my life that actually pushing me to certain avenues, or for example providing me with a certain family or a certain environment that I'm in. Okay, this is an Islamic viewpoint that myself have understood, and we do need to ask a scholarly role in the different Islamic understandings and the scholarship to really get a really deep understanding. But from an Islamic overall point of view, Islam talks about a middle path, a mixture between the predestined life and the free will life, and that the fact that there is in God's respect a knowledge which he knows of future and past, and all knowledgeable being that he is. And similarly, within that framework that he's created of this world, the limited framework of this world, we have a free will within that framework. So we determine what actions we do, and that will allow us to be judged according to the actions that we do as well. So although God is in ultimate control of the whole existence and knows your future and your past and knows what will happen and may have decreed something for you in the future, the example that is given is as if you go to a crossing where you have several different crossings. At the end of each of those crossings, so let's say you are in a path that you take, and you end up getting to a square where there's different paths along that this path, and you can choose between each one. The predestined idea is that at the end of that path there is something there. So for example, at the end of this path there's a school, at the end of this path there's a football pitch, at the end of this path there's a playground. Now I get to choose according to my own free will which direction that I would choose, but whichever direction I choose, the end result, the end predestined path is the school or the playground or that. And that's similar for the actions that we do or the things that we do within our life. Okay, so in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think that we need to understand that our actions are a free action, and we're not decreed or determined by someone or something completely. Because if we were, then we wouldn't live our lives. For example, we say, well, my wealth is predetermined. I'm only supposed to get £10, so there's no point in me working. Or well, it's decreed for people to be hungry and poor and have no water and food, and therefore why should I work? It's hard to do that. So that will, if we live a fully predestined life, that might happen. And similarly, if we live a fully free will life, then we might say that actually we're in charge of everything, and everything, the course of our life is determined by ourselves. So my opinion is that we need to live a middle ground where we know that our actions are judged, and we need to follow good actions, but at the same time understand that we also are bounded by a Lord who's so merciful and also is so giving, but understands that we should be taken to a particular direction to achieve our fullest potential.
That interview cleared my confusion completely. I now believe in the middle path, which consists of a mixture of free will and predestination. I have free will, meaning I can choose what actions I want to do, but then the actions I do lead to a path which is predestined. So to sum this video up, as a Muslim, I believe you can choose your actions, but whatever actions you choose leads to a predestined goal.